Welcome back to Better Conversations, the Life and Money podcast. This episode, we tackle the idea that every dollar we earn eventually leaves us. But the question becomes, where do we want it to go? Eric, after helping successful families make financial decisions for more than 30 years, what's one thing you've learned that almost nobody thinks about, but everybody should?
Well, Patrice, you mentioned it, that every dollar has a destination. And so the real question becomes, where do you really want your money to go? So let me explain that for just a minute. Our money doesn't stay in an account forever. It's going to leave us. And what I've found over the years is that oftentimes the most successful people that built the most amount of money often are business owners. They enjoy a lot of control and frankly don't willingly like to talk about their feelings about money and unpack some of their thoughts. And so planning can be difficult. But if we help them understand that your money is going to leave you and there's only 4 destinations for your money, it helps them think about moving beyond just wealth management, which is just really just managing money, to stewardship, which is all about intention and purpose. And a lot of the people that have done the best at accumulating have the hardest time directing their money or letting go of their money. And just having this conversation around the 4 destinations of money helps unlock some of these roadblocks to being purposeful.
Okay, 4 destinations. What are they?
Well, first, to spend.
Yes.
There's only 4 places your money can go. You can spend it. You can give it away. You can leave it. Or you can lose it.
Ooh.
Yeah. Obviously, no, we don't want to lose it, but that's the only 4 places. There's not a 5th. Spend it, give it, leave it, or lose it.
Okay. Well, then let's start with spending. I mean, you hit on a good point there. First, I'll say everybody, I think, likes to spend money, but some people who have money are loath to spend it, loath to let it go.
Yeah, it's so often, I'm going to pick on this stereotype here. It's typically male. In my experience, in my practice, it's been male business owners, been really good at accumulating it, but they just tend to want to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, and they never harvest.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so it's like we're growing and growing and growing, but we never harvest it. We never tend to direct it anywhere else. And so, hey, do this for the listeners. Grab a sheet of paper or just visualize this. Grab a piece of paper and draw a big square on the piece of paper. And then divide it into 4 quadrants. So there's 4 boxes. And in the top left, right, spend, or think about that. Spend in the top left corner. And then on the top right corner, give. And in the bottom left corner, you can leave. In the bottom right corner would be to lose it. And visualize that and just know that every financial decision you're making determines how much eventually goes into each box. And this framework becomes a tool of starting to understand, what is the purpose of this money and what am I trying to do? So we're big believers that, let's take the first one, spending. So spending to me is not about buying things. It's not necessarily about your lifestyle or consumption. And actually spending can be really misunderstood, but we think of spending as converting your money or harvesting your money into life. So just think about that for a second. Money has no value until it improves your life or somebody else's life. And what we see so often, especially with great accumulators, is they keep accumulating stuff or keep accumulating money. And frankly, there's only so much stuff you can buy, and it doesn't really move your life to be a better place. Does that make sense, Patrice?
Absolutely.
So money just sitting in an account has potential, but the moment that you take a memorable trip with your family, or you use money to regain your health, or you buy back your time or learn something new, or maybe you create a memory with your grandchild. Then you start creating purpose. You're spending money, but it's intentional, and it's doing something to improve your life. So that's when money becomes life. So the goal has never been, for most people, and maybe it shouldn't be, to just build the largest investment account possible. The goal is to build the richest life possible, and those aren't necessarily the same things. So thinking about the first destination of spending it, it forces us to start asking a different question. So, which is like, for example, how can my resources improve my life? How can they improve somebody else's? And when you start thinking of spending that way, it starts to take on a different meaning than simply earning and collecting more money. It's less about consumption and more about contribution and purpose.
When someone starts thinking that way, does it make it easier for them to spend?
Yes, I believe so. In my experience, absolutely.
Yeah.
In other words, lots of people are just locked into just accumulating and haven't really given themselves permission to let go, harvest, so to speak. And again, it's not necessarily about consumption and buying material things, but just creating new experiences and doing things that will be lasting and actually truly improve your life or somebody else's.
I do like your statement. Money has no value until it improves a life. I like that.
I really believe that. So once we determine spending, another box in the quadrant, another destination for your money is to give it. And when we talk about giving, the immediate thought sometimes is charity, but I think it's more than that. It's more about generosity. And it's not necessarily about the amount of money that you give, but it's about the intent and how you're, again, using money to make life better for other people or organizations in that sense. So whether it's, helping a grandchild with an education or an adult that's going through a tough period in life, or I've seen lots of business owners mentor and help younger professionals with their careers as entrepreneurship or business owners. But there's all kinds of ways to give and give back and use your money as a tool in that regard. But again, it's not necessarily just about giving to charity, but using your money to give in different ways and being intentional about how much do I want in this destination?
Talk about how planning can increase the impact of giving.
Well, for example, recently we just had a client that had some charitable intent and didn't understand and realize, well, first of all, they had what's called an inherited IRA. They had an IRA account that was inherited from another person, and they're having to withdraw this money over a 10-year rule. That's kind of technical, but the point is they were subject to quite significant income taxes. So the client became to know about what we call a donor advised fund, where we could have them take a full liquidation of this IRA, contribute it to this donor advised fund as a charitable contribution, and eliminate all the tax in this case, in their scenario, eliminate all the tax on this IRA and accomplish their goal of giving to charity. So it was a tool, it's a planning tool without digging into understanding what their charitable intent was and looking at all their resources and identifying an opportunity to accelerate the withdrawal of this IRA, which would normally have been all taxable, and losing a third of it or more to taxes, which now they avoided that and made the charitable contribution, which can then go to the charities they desire. So oftentimes clients do things like that. We have opportunities to give appreciated stock and avoid paying capital gains tax. Retirees oftentimes use qualified charitable distributions from their IRA accounts, where if they give money from their IRA directly to charity, they can avoid any taxes on their IRA that way. So planning is really important, but it all starts with this conversation of, do you want giving to be a destination for any of your money? Then we back into the technical aspects of how you can do that and reduce unnecessary taxes, for example.
All right, great. Anything other thoughts on giving there?
Well, again, it's not about the number of dollars, but it's just starting to have the conversation about what's really important to me. What impact do I want to make? How do I want to be remembered? And again, it's not about the dollars, but what's the impact that I'm trying to make to others in my community?
All right. So we've been spending, we've been giving. What happens to the money that we don't touch?
You can't take it with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The third destination is just to leave it to somebody after you're gone. And immediately, this tends to draw images or thoughts of trusts and wills and power of attorneys and beneficiary designations and all these technical aspects. But that's not the conversation we're trying to have. That's not the better conversation. Those are just legal documents. They're tools. They're not the end purpose. And so when we talk about leaving it, it's an important conversation to decide if you want to leave money, and then shift the conversation from these legal documents that are necessary. They're absolutely necessary. But what's more important is talking about what experience do you want your family to have after you're gone? So often this conversation of leaving it goes untouched in terms of what's this going to be like for your family? Are you leaving clarity? Are you leaving organization? Does the family, your heirs, your loved ones really understand your wishes, your values? Are they going to be, of course, they're going to be in grief, but is everything organized and well laid out? And that's an intentional conversation. So we've seen so often people have documents, but they haven't had the conversations. They haven't had the conversations with their heirs, with their family. And so they leave chaos. Even though there's legal documents in place, they often leave chaos, especially business owners, especially real estate property owners. There's lots of nuances. And so again, having the conversation about what experience do you really want to leave your family with is really critical.
Do you help individuals write legacy letters?
Yeah, we call it an ethical will, so to speak.
Okay.
It's not a legal document, but yeah, legacy letter, ethical will, those kinds of things where it's just a non-legal document where you're writing down, sometimes videotaping, really what's most important to you, how you earned your money, what's your values are around it, what your wishes are, and really giving your heirs permission to make their own decisions if that's what you want in the future. So often heirs feel trapped by maintaining assets or things or stuff that they inherit that they don't feel like they can get rid of or make a different decision. They feel guilt. And so again, a part of that conversation, you need the legal documents, but really this legacy letter or ethical will is really a critical tool to having a better conversation with your family about what's appropriate and what you hope for them after you're gone.
Sounds like a very heavy conversation to have with your family. How would you suggest someone start that conversation?
Well, the first thing is just to get clear on what you hope for your family and what you hope for them. And any wishes and desires that you have for them, and just getting clear on that and writing that down. And then it's just a conversation. It's just a matter of being frank about it. Hey, we're all going to leave, right? And just trying to balance it with what they need to know versus what you want them to know at the time, and just having the hard conversation, just taking the first step, being clear what you want.
And that fourth box, Eric, that fourth box, losing, that's a hard one.
Yeah, we don't want to lose, right? Nobody wants to lose. When we think about losing money, what's the destination we can lose our money? We don't want to lose money. Now, I'm not talking about stock market crashes, big catastrophic events. What we find is people lose money just quietly over time in a series of small decisions that they become unaware of. So maybe it's leaving too much cash laying around and not earning any kind of real return on it, losing out to inflation over time. You're losing your purchasing power, not going through effective tax planning coordinated with your investment accounts so that you're paying unnecessary income taxes. Of course, there's not having an estate plan that hasn't been reviewed. There's market timing, there's fraud, there's all kinds of family dysfunctions and so forth. So what we find is that without planning, there's often this seepage of money, and all of that, it's not one big event typically, but it's a series of small decisions that add up to be cumulative over time that can be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars over many, many years of lost opportunity that just kind of get slipped away. So that's where, financial planning isn't just about kind of predicting the future of your financial life, but it's also about identifying loss and preventing unnecessary losses.
Wow. So it sounds like, when you get the apps on your phone and you're not using them and they kind of disappear into your memory, and that's like a couple bucks here and a couple bucks there a month. But these are bigger seepages that you're dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of decisions that, and sometimes the spending overlaps with the loss, right? Are we really conscious with what we're spending money on, and is it really improving our life? Vehicles, all kinds of things. How many things do you really need that are depreciating and losing money? And if they improve your life, that's great. But for a lot of people, what we see is they just don't know what to do with all their money. So they just either get lazy with it or just buy more stuff. And they're really not, when we talk to them, they're really not improving their life or anybody else's life. And there's just all kinds of lost opportunity. So the takeaway is not necessarily the 4 boxes. It's just a framework to start the conversation. Because again, it's often difficult for people to talk about their values and to reveal what's important to them. They don't want to talk about their feelings about money oftentimes, but this framework of just realizing, hey, your money's going to go 4 places. Nobody wants to spend all their money. Nobody wants to give it. Nobody wants to leave it all. And nobody wants to lose it for sure. So it's not about one particular destination of those 4, but it's about finding the balance between them and being intentional. So that's just the key, is just being intentional of where your money's going and that it does have a destination.
All right. That's one of the conversations, isn't it? One of the big conversations.
Yeah. It's about stewardship, not just wealth management.
All right, Eric, there's a lot that you covered here today. Is there anything we missed that you want to make sure we mention?
Well, I would just say, again, the most successful families aren't necessarily those that have the most amount of money, but it's those that become most intentional in directing it with purpose.
All right. How can people reach you, Eric?
purplewealth.com, or you can find my website, or you can reach me at eric.lee@purplewealth.com by email.
All right. At Purple Wealth, folks, people often ask what makes comprehensive financial planning different. Yeah, we care about investments, taxes, retirement income, estate planning, all that. But underneath every recommendation is one simple question. What do you want your money to accomplish before it leaves you? And that's the conversation we're really having with families. Please follow this podcast so you know when a new show is ready for you. And of course, share it with others as well. I'm Patrice, and thanks for being with us. Thank you for listening to Better Conversations, the Life and Money podcast with Eric Lee from Purple Wealth. If this episode sparked something for you, follow the show so you never miss a conversation. You can learn more at www.purplewealth.com or reach out directly. We'd love to hear your thoughts. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Purple Wealth is a separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Any guests and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Purple Wealth. Individual tax or legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.